These voices out of Baltimore are not really the kind of voices that anyone pays attention to.
It seems that we're just ripping it from the headlines, but actually these stories right now were written a year ago.
If you were to show the reality of the school system, you couldn't begin to capture how bad it is.
There's a big problem that Baltimore has.
In this city, one block, it looks like lifestyles of rich and famous, and then you go right around the corner, and it looks like a war zone.
The show does not back away from the truth.
This is fiction, but this is how it is in life.
The Wire is involved with things that are right in your face day to day, and people don't want to see that.
It is not a tragic picture of Baltimore. It is a part of Baltimore that is tragic.
What we have allowed to happen is really criminal, unforgivable, and heartbreaking.
Listen.
Murder. I should take it downtown.
Who knows what he really knows? I don't want to see him get chewed up by the system.
Why do you care?
He's one of my students.
The integrity of The Wire comes from the integrity of the creators.
The stories are based on real stories. And the creators lived through these stories in their previous jobs, Dave being a Baltimore Sun reporter and Ed Burns being a Baltimore detective.
That's the element that brings the realness to the show, that makes it genuine. You know, without guys like that, I don't think we would have this kind of show.
We know you were there. We know you set him up, and we know you didn't do it alone.
There's a more realism than you see in most police shows, and I know that Dave knows that from his time with us. Also, Ed Burns was a detective in homicide.
Our show is a very real show because it reflects on the humanity of the people who are struggling to deal with the neighborhoods they live in and the cities that they live in.
They wouldn't let me see my son. Said it wasn't much left by the time y'all found him.
Out of all the cities I've been in, Baltimore has a certain truth in its people where they don't hide who they are or what they're doing. What you see is what you get, and I find that admirable.
You know, we were talking to a cop today, and he said all the cops in Baltimore love the show, and they say it has a real authenticity to it, and I think that's what makes it very special.
In your final court report, it would be prudent to tell the judge the investigation hit a dead end. I can't tell you how many police officers, FBI agents, lawyers come up to me and introduce themselves and tell me how wonderful the show is and how real it is and how do we get it so right.
And that's the authenticity that we bring to the show. We do have specialists in every area that we explore.
We want to get it right, so we spend a lot of time investigating the worlds we're going to look at.
Dead when you got here?
Actually not. He was still conscious and coughing blood when I pulled up.
You asked who shot him?
Yeah, I asked who shot him. He said it was a guy with a gun.
David saw this city nightly unfold as he was a writer for The Sun, and he met the people who actually wound the clock. And the Wire way is to honor those people first. I mean, that's the source. And David writes from that source.
Most of the characters in the show, especially the first season, are based on people that do or did exist.
There are winks and nods to people in Baltimore, and generally a lot of these people in Baltimore get it, you know? Anybody in the police department knows that the Bunk character is a smiling tip of the hat to Oscar Require, who was known as the Bunk, and who is, in his physical demeanor, very close to Wendell Pierce. The health commissioner last season, who was urging the mayor to seriously consider decriminalizing drugs, was actually Kurt Schmoke, the former mayor of Baltimore, who, at great political cost, urged the country to consider exactly that.
If this thing were sanctioned, my department could put public resources into play. Well, as mayor, I never quite got to do Amsterdam, but I did publicly state that the war on drugs should be more of a public health war rather than a criminal justice war.
Mayor Schmoke was way ahead of his time when he called for the legalization of drugs. He was vilified nationally.
I really think that you're onto something here, Clarence, but if you keep it up, before you know it, they'll be calling you the most dangerous man in America.
Wood Harris, his Avon Barksdale was a composite of 5 or 6 drug dealers. And in the course of that 3-year arc, we ran several wiretap scenarios that were run against various drug organizations at different times.
Some of it's amusing, like that character Omar, who just went around robbing people.
All right, everybody, let me see them hands, yo. I don't know about cars, but I think these 4-5s be the full house.
There were many real Omars. There were many stick-up guys who robbed drug dealers. Omar is a elaboration on 2 or 3 of them.
These guys are an amazing group of people. They rebel against the drug world.
Hey, yo, you see the look on his mug? That's the reason why we get up every morning.
And are very set with a moral code. Even though it's kind of twisted, it is a code, and they stay with that code all the time.
This here is a taxpayer murder with an eyeball witness.
Come on now, when you ever know me to put my gun on anybody that wasn't in the game?
Omar. If you notice, Omar never curses. He honors Sunday as a day off and a day of rest. And at the same time, he's one of the most cold-blooded killers in television history.
Yeah. I don't ever remember seeing anything like Omar on TV ever. Omar feels like he's kind of cleaning up the streets in a sense, like there's a little vigilante in him.
My character happened to be based on one person, but they put a lot of different elements into him also.
Only reason I could bring any life to this strip is because of the good shit that y'all was giving me. And then I'm standing here like an asshole holding my Charles Dickens because I ain't got no muscle, no backup.
So you want to bump with Marlo over real estate. You on your own. But if you want my advice,
I don't.
Bodie. Yo, Bodie.
Bodie is Baltimore. Baltimore is Bodie. He loves his environment, and I know he believes that his environment loves him, and that's why he is the way he is. Not that he would have been better off or worse off, or even alive, but he wouldn't be Bodie if he wasn't in Baltimore.
80% of the characters are true life characters that they encountered, or Mr. Ed Burns encountered when he was a cop. And Bubbles is, was his street informant.
There was a real Bubbles. I met him. I wrote his obit in the paper. It ran without his name on it because his family didn't want him named. But Ed knew him for 15 years.
Melvin Williams, who plays the deacon.
Your Sabbath best?
In the 1960s, 70s, 80s, he was a major drug kingpin. I arrested him, got 16 years. He plays our deacon. He's a church man now.
How is it you got so much wisdom about who should be where?
A good church man is always up in everybody's shit.
The show has given me the creds to go into the criminal world and talk to these guys.
I was locked up age of 14, come home 2000. I mean, I could lose myself, get into character, because the character that I play is like a hit girl, just running crazy, running wild. What I used to do, but now, I'm a better person. It's just a blessing right now. I just turned my whole life around.
We'll be on the set and he'll bring people on, and then you'll be like, yo, Ed, who's that? He's like, oh, man, it's this dude I know, man. It's a friend of mine. I busted him like 10 years ago. And he's cool, man. He's out now. He's my man. It's just unusual, you know what I mean? And he's just cool. He's like really down to earth, and he just wants to help people.
Now see them drug boys? They block the alleys like this so the police won't chase them down there.
All this trash. Rats everywhere. Houses vacant. We keep trying to get them to come down here and clean this up.
But nothing ever gets done.
The Wire reflects a certain amount of disappointment that I feel in terms of what's happened to my city and what my city has been made to endure.
Violent crime is down, and our police department is working hard to keep it that way.
Last night, another citizen was shot and killed. This time, the victim was a key witness in a drug case that had yet to come to court.
They take a cool, hard look at the city of Baltimore, but it's obvious that they love it.
It's a city in neglect. That's what it is, that's what we're constantly showing.
There are people that have nostalgia for the crack houses of The Wire as much as some people have for the tall ships.
Baltimore is about more than what is depicted on The Wire.
Most people come to Baltimore, they're in total shock that what they really see is not like what you see on The Wire. But The Wire does give a perspective of an element in our city that we constantly work to improve upon.
Where am I going again?
One of those neighborhoods between Oliver and Middle East.
Middle East. Well, that's a good name for it. Fucking Fallujah.
I represent some of those neighborhoods that are depicted in The Wire, and I see it firsthand. It is a real depiction, in my opinion, of what it's like in that type of environment.
There's a lot of beauty in the city, a lot of pain, a lot of struggle, a lot of hope.
It's a wonderful town with a lot of wonderful people, the majority of whom are not engaging in crime.
As a Baltimorean, I love to show things that are not going to be around for long. And in a way, for me, it's capturing a part of the city that nobody else really wants to capture.
I care about the city, and I've come to feel like sort of an honorary resident of Baltimore. I love the city, and I love working here, and I feel like the stories that we tell are Baltimore stories for a reason, that we're not just using this as a backdrop.
Yo, you all up on me before I do my work?
I'm not your yo. Baltimore has its own dialect. I know a lot of the actors go out and do their research.
The slang is completely different here.
I like how I would say, look at him. They say, look at yo. First time I read it in the script, I'm like, oh, this is probably a typo.
In New York, New Jersey, we would say, oh, you playing me. Down here, they say carry. Oh, you gonna carry me like that? That's how you gonna carry it?
In Baltimore, when somebody's talking about a dog, some people say Doug.
Look at that dude over there, and that's dog. Dude.
They call like young drug dealers, they call them hoppers.
If I see any of y'all little hoppers even smile at a motor vehicle again, it's gonna be my people settling up with y'all in the alleys, you understand?
Can't do that, yo.
Try me, Naaman.
First time I heard hoppers, I was like, hopper? What's a hopper? And then he said, you a hopper? And I was like, oh.
There's this word, they say, gump.
What about you, dude? Want some gump? Nah, I'm gonna work this rope. Yeah, you working it. Like a gump.
It's like calling somebody a B word or something.
I know when I read a script and I go through some of that dialogue, I'm like, where did David or Ed or these guys get this from?
My dog is like slang for my boy.
A gun would be a gap.
I had never worked with a script that was in English that had a glossary.
It's so real because as I go through the city on this daily basis, I hear it. It's Baltimore. I can't say nothing else.
Shit! First, let me apologize for killing Stringer Bell.
I know. A lot of people were brokenhearted for that criminal, you know?
Stringer Bell was killed because he was trying to reform the drug trade, and the drug trade will not stand reform. And he utters the last words before he's killed.
Well, get on with it, motherfucker.
To continue Ibrus's character after this high point of the third season would have been to serve character and not story.
For him not to die would be to undercut everything we were trying to say about reform and whether or not such a thing is possible anymore in urban America.
And I get approached on the street, they be like, "We know you killed Stringer. Where can we go on from here?" I'm like, when they killed Tukey around the corner on 5th Street last night, what happened? Did your world stop? No, you talked about that. You buried him, you cried at the wake, and you went on to work Monday morning. Life goes on. No, the game don't stop.
In real life, people like Stringer Bell get killed and pissed on. And David knows that, and David showed that.
We have to approach these things as if they're a book and they have a beginning, they have a middle, and the end. And when you get to the end, we want people to close the show, every season of the show, the same way they'd close a book and say, that was worth the time it took to read it and to really think about it. There's a cost to that, and you know, Stringer paid the cost.
Daddy, don't even go there. With you all the time telling me how you dropped out in the 6th grade, went up on the corner with Ava on the stringer, earned cheese for the family, saying how I made you a man. All right, you right.
Before cocaine in Baltimore in the 80s and 90s, you had very strong single-parent families, as a rule. The mothers were very strong in these communities, and they were a very profound influence. Cocaine devoured women as well as men. And I know from when Ed and I were out on the corner, we were seeing the unparented, the children who were raising each other in the streets because the home life had been so devoured. Although we were very critical of the school system component and the notion of leave no child behind and mandatory testing and, you know, the way that's evolved into a scam.
North Avenue is all about the leave no child behind stuff getting spoon-fed.
And what do they learn?
The truth is, in a place like Baltimore, they're taking in kids that are profoundly affected by what life in the street has been like and are basing their adolescence on the lessons learned for and about the corner.
Come on, man, what the fuck you want to go to school for? Look, check it out. Why don't you just come down here after school and just work these rush hours for me? How about that? Now we have young kids, fresh starts, infinite possibilities. And, now we have to look at the decisions and the choices that they make.
Yo, shut up!
Good morning. I'm your homeroom teacher, obviously. My name is Mr. Presbolewski.
When you asked me who I was, I almost said Detective Roland Presbolewski, but this season we discover Prez walking up to a public school and looking for a job. I'd like to discuss...
Yo, is it true that you police?
What?
Miss Carmen, you up in the office? Say Mr. Presbo, he police.
Yo, you police, man?
You ever shoot somebody?
Some of the problems that these teachers and principals are facing in the classroom and in the schools and the halls are sort of larger than them, beyond their purview.
I need those bus passes back, the kids that need them.
Mr. Prez, what?
A sufficient number of these kids are so profoundly damaged that when they end up in the classroom, they act out. Their behavior is so disruptive that learning can't go on around them.
Yo, my head hurting from all this learning. You got some Tylenol?
What I got for you is detention.
You know what? Fuck you, Presbo.
Ed was a detective doing these prolonged wiretap cases, and he was a patrolman in the Western, and before that he was an infantryman in Vietnam. He taught for 7 years at Hamilton Middle and then at City College. He said it was the hardest job he ever had.
I met Ed Burns at Hamilton Middle School, and we were having these confrontations, the two of us.
I went to her over the summer. I said, I don't know, Vera, but I think there's two groups of people in our classrooms, the stoop kids and the corner kids.
So I'm thinking to myself, I don't like those terms. I said, can't we use something like acclimated or less acclimated? No, stoop and corner.
It seems to me there are two kinds of kids walking in this building. Stoop kids and corner kids.
Excuse me?
No, stoop kids. They're the ones that stay on the front steps when the parents tell them. The others go down to the corners.
But we both agreed that you could tell an acclimated kid from an unacclimated kid by simply putting him in a chair. The acclimated kid stayed there, the unacclimated kid didn't.
They can't sit still in the class. The others can and do.
So separate the two.
We tried separating the children, and it worked. It absolutely worked. And as the principal, I took the babies who had the challenging behaviors. I honestly did not have to step back into that building because there was just no disruptive behavior, no interruptions to instruction.
Question is, how do we identify the corner kids?
That won't be a problem.
That small group of kids in a traditional setting do absolutely nothing all day except run the halls and look for folk to sell the drugs to.
Fuck you looking at, bitch? Oh, Miss Sampson,
Naaman Bryce.
Yeah, I was just...
One of the corner kids, huh?
He's in a regular classroom with regular kids.
Okay, everyone open your books to 121.
But then he gets pulled out that classroom because the principal decides that she wants to make a class for the bad kids so that the good kids can learn now.
Naaman Bryce, Darnell Tyson, and Zenobia Dawson. Grab your things and come with us, please.
So then when I get in that class, the teacher's Bob Wisdom. His character is Colvin, and he wants to teach us how to act in the streets before he can teach us how to act in school.
You know, this right here, the whole damn school, it's training for the street. I mean, y'all come in here every day and practice getting over. Try running all different kind of games. You know, it's practice for the corner, right? Ain't no real cops, ain't no real danger. But y'all are getting something out of this.
They're exceptionally bright. They have so many great skills, and all you need to do is pull them from the traditional setting, and you use the skills that they have. I even let a couple be safety patrols. They do well standing at the door, and they love that, and that's like pulling them in, because now I'm doing something in this school, and I'm being recognized for that.
If you discourage a kid's interest, they're gonna turn into anger, really. I mean, people bring their kids to me now, like a girl maybe, and she's like a mean goth girl with a tattooed face, and what can I do with this daughter? I said, she can open a tattoo parlor. I mean, work with what you got.
What makes a good corner boy?
Keep your eyes open.
Keep the count straight.
Nah, you gotta have one boy to watch you.
If you don't got no respect in the hood, you ain't got nothing.
You ain't got no respect, you ain't got no money.
I was always in and out of school
suspended a lot. And it wasn't until I found a sport, I was wrestling, and I did very well. I ended up getting a scholarship to college the next year because of it.
I used to love going to school mostly because of, drama class. I'm not sure if I would be sitting here if I didn't have that thing to pull me into school, because there's so much outside of school that was more exciting to do. There's a lot of trouble to get into.
When you look at the lives of some of these kids, it's like, it makes you look at yourself and wonder, I'm really blessed.
I think the school system is failing a lot of our kids today because the teachers are underpaid and overworked. You can't give the attention and the focus necessary when they're stocking 30 and 40 kids in a class.
We're seeing that kids are just being passed along because there's nowhere else to put them.
We don't have the resources to repeat grade levels, and we feel to place the older children in the younger classes is unfair to teachers who are responsible for maintaining order. Your nephew has been socially promoted.
When you're talking about resource allocation, some people think that they're winners and losers in terms of movement of the money, but we all lose if we don't educate these young people and they end up in prison and coming out unemployable and then becoming a drain on society.
They're gonna be paying for these kids to be in a prison doing 24, 25, 30 years. Somebody has to pay for that. So why not pay for it up front and prevent it?
What's going on with you though, son?
Ain't nothing. School about to start.
So with Bodie and his boys, they treating you right?
Yeah, he cool.
Children are out there with no fathers because their fathers are sitting in some jail. Somebody is taking great care of the father in jail while his kid is on the street with nothing. Sometimes absolutely nothing. Pay for it up front.
I think, maybe there's someone out there that can solve this problem with the schools, who's maybe somebody who doesn't necessarily want to read the newspaper every day and deal with what's going on out there, and but maybe you'll look at the wire as entertainment and just, somehow get some idea of how to fix this, because it really is a problem nationwide, and it seems like we should be able to do better.
We created 4 characters, and we dropped them in this world.
My boys are Randy Wagstaff, played by Maestro, Michael Lee, played by Tristan, and Duquan Williams, played by Jermaine Crawford.
You see them initially very childlike, in that throes of the middle school mind, and in 13 episodes, they go on a journey.
Blood still stuck to his hair. He dead.
He dead. Each of the kids have a path we want to go, but other things get in the way, like the drug game and the violence. It's always them 4 kids, they always together, they go to school together. But as the show go on, we start to drift apart.
Michael Lee is like the unspoken leader of the group. Out of all of the 4 boys, he's the mysterious one, the one that, you'll see him quiet and you'd be like, dang, what is he thinking about? And Marlo, in the beginning, sees potential in him.
Ain't no thing, shorty. We cool.
Randy Wagstaff. He's very business-minded. Kit Kats $1, Snicker bars $1, Warheads $1. He's thinking future because he feels that if he makes money, it's a way to bring, get him out of the hood and get him into a better life.
My character, he's only 15. He's a kid. He wants to live like a kid. He wants to go hang out with his friends. Can't wait to see all the girls, see what yours got fat over the summer,
Duquan, he's the kid who's into computers and real smart. Michael's there to back him up. Michael's his protector.
Come on. What? Said leave him be, so leave him be.
So we're not taking dramatic liberty. We're trying to suggest what these kids are exposed to make you feel for these kids because they are children.
Gentlemen. Oh, shit! Donut, you are crazy, man. Hey, yo, Donut, you think you could steal us one of them camper trucks?
We're looking back at younger kids, 12, 13, 14. Where are these children coming from who are going to be manning these corners? Where do the Wallaces and the Bodies and the Poots come from?
Oh, Mr. Presbo. Randy, I'm a foster child. I don't know who my father is, and I don't know who my mother is. So now I'm living with my foster mother, Miss Anna. She got me on a short leash right now. Can't go out the house unless she know right where I'm going.
Shit, at least you got a leash.
The foster mother, Miss Anna, is a very strong character and very devoted and being an incredibly responsible influence on Randy's life.
My character's mom name is Delonda Bryce, and she's been in this drug world since day one. So this is all she knows. Her husband was a mass murderer, so now she has a son and she wants him to follow in the footsteps of her husband because they stayed wealthy being in the drug game.
You gonna have to step up now, Nay.
Hey.
Be the man of the family.
But my character, he has other dreams.
She expect me to be my father, but I ain't him.
Michael Lee has a little brother, and his mom and his home situation isn't doing right in the beginning of the show.
10. You a hard child.
His mother's on drugs. He's basically the father of his little brother.
You can tie one shoe, you can tie the other one.
Dookie, his parents, it's so bad for him they sell his clothes. His situation is the worst. So water's not on, he barely gets food.
I pack too much.
He needs to be in a foster home.
Schools get ready to start. Come on.
The new season, if I could put it in a sentence, kids are going to learn. The question is, where?
Yo, I love the first day, son. Everybody all friendly and shit.
Name and Bryce.
I can understand why someone might think, education, how can that theme be dramatic? But what makes a story dramatic isn't the theme. What makes it dramatic is the lives of the people.
When we say that education is the theme, I think it's a little misleading because I think it's about the miseducation of children.
The problem of the public school system is the Achilles heel of Baltimore.
The number of people who have been heedlessly and sort of fecklessly left behind, it's shocking to me.
We're looking at a disaster, and nobody's paying attention.
I think it'll wake people up a little bit as to what the situation is in the school system, particularly in inner city schools.
It's crazy the way it's set up. The floors are set up, the doors are set up, the chains are set up, the metal detectors are set up.
Yeah, it's realistic. It's not a game. People getting stabbed, getting shot in school. Whatever you see on the wire is not a game.
There aren't many storytellers out there who are saying, yeah, let's do a show about the most difficult, challenged urban public schools and try to see what's going on there and how the kids are being let down there.
You gonna look out for me?
You gonna look out for me?
People in the game nowadays, I mean, it's a whole different breed.